When Grandpa asked me where my car was, I froze. His voice was warm, gentle, the kind of voice that used to make me feel like everything in the world could be fixed with just one hug from him. "Lucy," he said, smiling with his kind, weathered eyes, "didn't I give you that silver Corolla for your graduation?" His hand, trembling slightly from age, rested on my shoulder, and for a moment I wished I could lie. I wished I could tell him it was parked outside, safe and clean, just like the day he'd handed me the keys. But that would have been a lie. That car wasn't mine anymore. My heart clenched as his words sank in. That car wasn't just a vehicle. It was his gift, his pride, and my symbol of independence. He'd saved up for months to buy it, working late nights at his auto repair shop even though he'd already retired. I still remember the day he surprised me. My college graduation. The smell of engine oil on his hands as he pressed the keys into my palm. He said, "This isn't just a car, Lucy. It's your start. Wherever life takes you, you'll have the wheels to get there yourself." I'd cried that day, not because of the gift itself, but because it meant he believed in me. Now, months later, all that was left of that moment was emptiness, both in my driveway and inside my chest. It all began when I came home for summer break 3 weeks ago. After a brutal semester of exams and sleepless nights, I couldn't wait to drive again. The plan was simple. Unpack, take the car for a spin, and visit Grandpa to show him I'd taken care of it just like he taught me. But when the cab dropped me off at my parents' house, something immediately felt wrong. The space where my car should have been was empty. No familiar silver gleam under the sun. No comforting sight of the dented bumper from that one parking mishap I'd never told Grandpa about. "Just bare pavement, Mom?" I called as I stepped inside, rolling my suitcase over the rug. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and fried onions. Ordinary, except for the weight sitting in my chest. "Where's my car?" She looked up from the kitchen counter, her expression unreadable. "Oh, that," my heart skipped. "That?" "We had to make a decision," she said flatly, wiping her hands on a towel. "Your sister needed it more than you." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean she needed it?" "That's my car." "She got a job across town," Mom said, her tone sharp, impatient. "You're at college most of the year. It made sense for her to have something to drive. It's just sitting here otherwise." My pulse started to pound in my ears. "But Mom, Grandpa gave it to me. It's not yours to give away." She sighed, crossing her arms. "Lucy, it's just a car. Don't make it into some big emotional thing. We're a family. We share things." Before I could argue, Dad's voice cut in from behind his newspaper in the living room. "He gave it to the family, Lucy. Not to you alone. Don't start drama over this." Drama, that word again. It was their favorite. Every time I stood up for myself, they called it drama. Every time I asked for fairness, they said I was too sensitive. I bit my tongue until I could taste blood, then turned and went to my room. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the framed photo on my nightstand, Grandpa and me beside the car, both grinning like we'd conquered the world. He had his arm around me, his hand greasy from the engine, and I could still hear his laugh when I told him I'd named the car Silver Spirit. He'd nodded proudly and said, "That's my girl. Keep that spirit alive wherever you go." Now I felt like I'd let him down. I wanted to call him to tell him everything, but I couldn't bring myself to. My parents had a way of twisting every story, and I knew they'd make me sound ungrateful or spoiled. I just hoped, maybe foolishly, that Grandpa already knew, that somehow they'd told him and he'd accepted it. But a few weeks later, when Grandpa showed up at our doorstep for his regular visit, I realized how wrong I was. He came in with a small gift bag and his usual smile, the kind that made even my mom's cold kitchen feel warm. "Hey, kiddo," he said, giving me one of those bear hugs that smelled like motor oil and aftershave. "How's my college graduate doing?" "I'm good," I said, forcing a smile. He looked around the driveway through the window, squinting. "Where's the car?" "Haven't seen it since the day I dropped it off here." "You keeping it in the garage?" My heart stuttered. I glanced at Mom, who froze mid-step with her coffee cup. Dad pretended not to hear. I swallowed hard and tried to smile. Oh, I haven't driven it much lately. Grandpa's brow furrowed. Really? I thought you'd be driving everywhere by now. I shrugged, pretending it was nothing. My throat burned with unshed tears. I hated lying to him. He looked at me a moment longer, then gave a small nod. All right, he said softly, but his eyes said he didn't believe me. Dinner that night was painfully awkward. Grandpa asked questions, gentle ones, about my classes, my plans, my part-time job at the library. But I could tell he sensed something off. My parents were unusually stiff, answering him with polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Emma wasn't home, and I could feel the tension every time her name came up. Later that night, I was walking to my room when I heard voices from the living room. Grandpa's tone was low but firm. You gave her car to Emma? There was a long pause before Dad replied. It's not that simple, Dad. The car wasn't being used. Emma's working now. She needed it. Grandpa's voice sharpened. That car wasn't yours to give away. It was my gift to Lucy. You know how much it meant to her. Mom's voice joined in, defensive and cold. You gave it to the family, not just her. We're just trying to make sure it doesn't sit there rusting. Grandpa's voice dropped, quiet but dangerous. You didn't even tell her? Didn't ask? That's not how families work. The room went silent. I stood in the hallway, barely breathing, my palms sweaty. I'd never heard Grandpa sound so disappointed. A minute later, I heard him sigh, a long, tired sound that made my chest ache. You know, he said softly, when you take something that isn't yours to give, life has a way of teaching you the lesson back. He didn't stay much longer after that. The next morning, I walked him out to his truck. The air was thick with the smell of rain, the sky gray and heavy. He handed me a small box wrapped in brown paper. A little something for your studies, he said with a smile that didn't quite hide the sadness in his eyes. I took it, trying to smile back. Thank you, Grandpa. He looked at me for a long time before pulling me into a hug. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Don't worry, sweetheart. Some lessons come slowly. I didn't understand then what he meant, but I would. As his truck disappeared down the road, I stood in the driveway, staring at the empty spot where my car used to be, where the silver spirit once gleamed under the sun. The wind picked up, scattering the petals from Mom's rose bushes across the pavement. It felt like the world was mocking me, beautiful but indifferent. Inside, my parents went about their day like nothing had happened. Mom hummed while washing dishes. Dad read his paper. I sat quietly at the table, eating cereal that tasted like cardboard, trying not to let the bitterness consume me. But inside, something shifted. For the first time, I realized my parents didn't see me as my own person, just as a convenient piece in their family puzzle, something they could move around to fit their comfort. That car wasn't about money or metal or paint. It was about control, about how easily they could take away something I'd earned just to please my sister, and I promised myself right then that I wouldn't let them take anything else from me. Not my place, not my pride, not the quiet bond I shared with Grandpa, the only person who'd ever believed I deserved better. That night, I sat by my window, holding the little box he'd given me. Inside was a small keychain, silver, engraved with the words, "Drive your own path." I clutched it tightly, tears streaming down my face. Maybe I didn't have my car anymore. But I had something more powerful, a reason to stand up, because sometimes losing something precious isn't the end. It's the start of seeing people for who they really are. And that was the night I stopped being the quiet daughter who let things go. That was the night I began writing my own story, the one where I decided where I was going, no matter who tried to take the keys. A week had passed since Grandpa's visit, but the tension that filled the house lingered like thick smoke that refused to clear. My parents acted as if nothing had happened. Mom hummed while cooking dinner. Dad whistled through his newspaper, and every time I walked by, they smiled that same tight smile, the one that said, "Let it go." Lucy, but I couldn't. Every time I stepped outside, the empty spot where my car used to sit burned into my mind. Every time I heard Emma's name, something twisted in my chest. I tried to distract myself with small things, studying for my summer course, working at the library, but the thought of that car, my car in my sister's careless hands, haunted me. The way Grandpa had looked at me before he left, his eyes filled with quiet disappointment and sadness, replayed over and over. I could still hear his words echoing in my mind. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Some lessons come slowly." I didn't know what lesson he meant, but something told me it wasn't over yet. Then one night, while scrolling through social media, I saw it, Emma's Instagram story. She'd posted a video of herself and her friends laughing in the parking lot outside a restaurant. And there it was, unmistakable even through the phone screen, the silver Corolla. My car. My heart thudded as I noticed the details. A dent on the passenger side, fast food wrappers on the dashboard, and a cheap pink air freshener hanging from the mirror. My silver Spirit, the car I'd polished and cherished, was being treated like a disposable toy. Anger surged through me so sharply I could barely breathe. I felt betrayed all over again, not just by my parents, but by the sister I had once defended every single time she got into trouble. Emma had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. When she got suspended in high school, my parents said the teacher was too harsh. When she lost her first job, they said the manager was unfair. And when she wanted a car, instead of working for one, they took mine. The next morning, I decided to see it for myself. I told my parents I was going out to meet a friend, then caught a bus to Emma's apartment across town. The ride was long, every stop dragging me deeper into a mix of rage and dread. When I got off, the air felt thick with summer heat, and there, in front of her building, I saw it. My Corolla, dusty, scratched, and neglected. The once silver paint had faded into a dull gray. The rearview mirror hung crookedly, and there were fast food cups scattered across the passenger seat. I walked up to it slowly, my stomach tight, and ran my hand along the hood. The metal felt warm from the sun, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. It was as if someone had taken a part of my life and stripped it of its meaning. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, I just stood there, staring, until I heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, look who's here," Emma said, stepping out of the building in sunglasses and a smug grin. Miss Perfect herself. I turned to face her, my pulse quickening. "Why, Emma?" I asked quietly. "Why couldn't you just ask? Why take it like that?" She shrugged, completely unbothered. "Because I needed it. And you weren't using it. You're at college, Lucy. You act like the world owes you something just because Grandpa likes you more." "That's not true, and you know it," I said, my voice trembling. "He gave me that car." "It wasn't yours to take," she smirked, pulling out her phone. "Oh, please. Everything in this family gets shared eventually. Mom said it's just fair. Maybe you should stop being so dramatic." There it was again, that word, dramatic. It burned in my chest like poison. I wanted to shout, to tell her how selfish she was, but I knew it would be pointless. Emma was used to getting what she wanted, and she always had our parents backing her up. As I turned to walk away, her boyfriend came out of the building. He was tall, tattooed, with a smirk that made my skin crawl. "Hey, babe," he said to Emma, tossing his keys in the air. "Who's this?" "My sister," Emma replied with a laugh. "She's checking up on her old car." He looked at me, then at the car, and laughed. "Oh, this was yours? Dang, that's cold. Guess you should have driven it more." They both laughed, like it was some inside joke. I didn't say a word. I just walked away, my hands shaking, my face burning. When I got home, I went straight to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed, clutching the small keychain Grandpa had given me, the one that said, "Drive your own path." I finally broke down. The betrayal, the humiliation, the helplessness, it all came crashing down in sobs I couldn't stop. That night, I called Grandpa. He picked up on the second ring. "Lucy, sweetheart," he said, his voice instantly calming me. "I've been waiting for your call." I didn't even try to hide my tears. "They gave it to her, Grandpa. She ruined it. It's covered in trash and dents." They all act like it's nothing. I don't even know what to do anymore." He was silent for a moment. I could hear the faint ticking of a clock in the background. Then he spoke softly but with a steel edge. "Don't do anything rash. Let me handle this. I think it's time your parents learned the value of what they take for granted. Grandpa, please don't start a fight." He chuckled, though it wasn't a happy sound. "A fight? Oh no, Lucy, just a family dinner. I'll call them tomorrow." And that's exactly what he did. 2 days later, my parents announced over breakfast that Grandpa had invited everyone for dinner on Sunday. He said he wanted to talk about family matters, Dad said casually, not looking up from his plate. My stomach twisted. I knew Grandpa well enough to know this wasn't going to be an ordinary dinner. He didn't believe in shouting or arguing. He believed in teaching, in lessons. And when he said a lesson was coming, it usually left an impression that lasted forever. Sunday came faster than I expected. The house smelled like roasted chicken and herbs when we arrived at Grandpa's. The table was set beautifully, his finest dishes, polished silverware, even a bouquet of fresh daisies in the center. Emma showed up last, strutting in with her usual confidence, tossing her hair like she owned the room. "Glad you could make it," Grandpa said, his tone cheerful but his eyes sharp. Dinner started pleasantly enough. He asked about work, about my studies, about Dad's new project at the firm. Everything felt normal until dessert. Grandpa stood up, cleared his throat, and looked around the table. "I wanted to talk to you all about something important," he said calmly. "A few months ago, I gave Lucy a car. It wasn't much, but it was a gift from my heart, a reward for her hard work and independence." The air went still. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. He continued, his voice steady. "I've since learned that the car was taken from her and given to someone else. Without my consent. Without even asking her. No one spoke. Emma glanced at Mom. Mom looked at Dad. Dad cleared his throat. "Dad, we were just—" Grandpa raised a hand. "Let me finish." His gaze shifted to Emma. "I saw the car outside when I visited last week. It's in bad shape, dented, neglected. I'm disappointed, Emma. You took something that wasn't yours, something that meant a great deal to your sister, and treated it carelessly. Do you know what that says about your respect for others?" Emma's cheeks flushed. "I didn't mean, and you two," he said, turning to my parents, his voice like ice. "You enabled it. You took something that didn't belong to you, and you justified it as sharing. That's not how families work. Family means respecting each other, not taking what's easy." No one dared to speak. Then Grandpa reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. He placed it gently on the table in front of me. "Lucy, this is for you. I want you to come see me tomorrow, alone." My parents exchanged worried glances, but Grandpa's expression was firm, unmovable. "You all can leave now," he said quietly. "Dinner's over." The silence that followed was unbearable. My parents gathered their things in awkward silence, muttering about misunderstandings and overreactions. Emma rolled her eyes, muttering that Grandpa was being dramatic, but I didn't say a word. I just watched him, trying to understand the calm strength in his face. When I stood to leave, he stopped me with a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Tomorrow," he said softly. "You'll understand everything tomorrow." That night back home, the atmosphere was icy. Mom slammed drawers, Dad paced the living room, and Emma scrolled through her phone pretending not to care. But I saw the worry in their eyes. For the first time, they looked unsettled. And for the first time, I didn't feel small anymore. I didn't know what Grandpa had planned, but I trusted him. He wasn't the kind of man to seek revenge. He believed in balance, in karma, in letting people face the consequences of their own choices. As I lay in bed that night, the moonlight spilling through my window, I held the small silver keychain tight in my hand. Drive your own path. Tomorrow, I thought. I'd finally find out what he meant. And deep down, for the first time in months, I felt something flicker inside me. Not anger, not sadness, but quiet anticipation. Because whatever Grandpa had planned, I knew it was going to change everything. The next morning, the air felt different, heavy, expectant, like the quiet before a summer storm. I barely slept the night before. My mind kept replaying the dinner scene at Grandpa's, his calm yet razor-sharp voice, the stunned silence from my parents, and the strange glint of something like pride in his eyes when he told me to come see him alone. I woke up with a mix of anxiety and curiosity clawing at my chest. Whatever he had planned, I knew it wasn't just about a car. Grandpa never did things halfway. I took the first bus out to his place, clutching a travel mug of lukewarm coffee, staring out the window as the city blurred by. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. I kept thinking about that envelope he'd placed in front of me. It was still unopened in my backpack. I didn't even know what was inside. A letter, maybe? A note? Whatever it was, it felt like the key to something larger than a car dispute. When I arrived, the old wooden gate creaked as I pushed it open. The familiar scent of motor oil, pine, and damp earth filled the air, Grandpa's smell. His workshop sat behind the house, and as I got closer, I heard faint music playing, an old country tune humming through the radio. I found him there, standing beside a covered car, wiping his hands with a rag. His back was slightly hunched, but his posture still carried that quiet strength I'd admired all my life. He turned when he heard me. "Morning, sweetheart," he said with a soft smile. "Right on time." "Morning, Grandpa," I said, my voice small but steady. He handed me a cup of fresh coffee, just the way I liked it. 2 sugars, a little milk. "You remember what I told you, don't you?" he asked. I nodded, setting the cup on a nearby workbench. "Some lessons come slow," he chuckled softly. "That's the one." Then he gestured toward the car beneath the tarp. "Ready for your lesson?" I frowned, confused but curious. "What lesson?" He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed the edge of the tarp and pulled it off with one smooth motion. The fabric fell away, revealing a deep crimson convertible, sleek, gleaming, beautiful. The morning light poured through the workshop windows, glinting off the polished surface like a ruby. I gasped. "Oh my God, Grandpa! What is this?" He smiled proudly, eyes crinkling at the corners. "This," he said, patting the hood gently, "is your new car. A '67 Mustang, restored with my own hands. Registered in your name, insured and paid for in full. No one can take this one away from you." I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. "Grandpa, I can't accept this." He looked at me with that same patient expression he always wore when he was teaching me something important. "Yes, you can. And you will. Because this isn't about a car anymore, Lucy. It's about what's yours. And knowing when to stand up for it." Tears welled up in my eyes. "But why, Grandpa? Why go through all this trouble?" He set the rag aside and leaned against the car. "Because your parents and sister needed a lesson in respect. They took something from you without permission, thinking they could justify it. That kind of entitlement? It doesn't just go away if you let it slide. It grows," I swallowed hard. "So this is your way of teaching them?" He smiled faintly. "This is my way of reminding them that some things can't be taken, not without consequences. You earned that first car through hard work. You deserved it. When they decided to give it away, they showed what kind of people they were. But you showed grace. You didn't yell, you didn't lash out. And that's why you're standing here today and they're not." I felt the tears spill down my cheeks. "I don't know what to say." He chuckled softly and handed me a set of keys. "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me one thing. Never let anyone make you feel small for valuing what's yours. Whether it's a car, your time, or your dignity. Once you give that away too easily, people stop seeing your worth." I nodded, clutching the keys like they were sacred. He smiled, satisfied. "Good. Now let's take her for a spin." The engine roared to life with a deep, steady hum that vibrated through my chest. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather cool against my skin, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Grandpa climbed into the passenger seat, and we drove down the narrow country road behind his house, the wind whipping through our hair. Neither of us spoke much. The sound of the engine said everything that needed to be said. When we finally pulled back into his driveway, he turned to me, his eyes thoughtful. You know, Lucy, when I gave you that first car, it wasn't just a graduation gift. It was a symbol. I wanted you to understand that independence comes from what you earn, not what's given or taken. And now, you've earned this. Not just the car, but the respect that comes with standing tall. I smiled through tears. Thank you, Grandpa. I'll never forget this. He nodded and patted my hand. I know you won't. Now go on. Drive it home. Let them see. My breath caught. You mean, he smirked. Exactly what you think I mean. Some lessons are best taught without words. I hesitated only for a moment before sliding back into the car. The drive home felt surreal. The sunlight spilling across the dashboard, the smell of the new leather, the thrill of the open road beneath me. Every mile felt like a heartbeat, strong and defiant. When I turned onto our street, I saw my parents standing outside with Emma, talking by the mailbox. Their conversation stopped the moment they heard the car's low, confident rumble. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad straightened, his face turning pale. Emma's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. I parked right in front of them, the tires crunching softly on the gravel. The engine purred as I turned it off, and for a moment, the silence was deafening. I stepped out slowly, my head held high. Mom was the first to speak. Lucy, where did you get that? Grandpa, I said simply. He wanted me to have it. Dad blinked, still processing. But that car, it's mine, I interrupted, my voice calm but firm, registered in my name. He said it's a gift for doing the right thing. Emma scoffed. Oh, come on, Lucy, you're making this a whole thing again. Over a car? I turned to her, my gaze steady. It's not about the car, Emma. It's about respect. Something you might want to learn before life teaches you the hard way. She opened her mouth to respond. But Grandpa's old truck pulled up just then, rumbling to a stop beside the curb. He climbed out, hands in his pockets, looking completely at ease. Morning, he said cheerfully, nodding to my parents. Nice day, isn't it? Dad cleared his throat nervously. Dad, this isn't necessary. You didn't have to buy her another car. Grandpa smiled faintly. You're right. I didn't, but I wanted to, because I invest in people who take care of what they're given. Lucy did. You didn't. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Mom's face flushed. We were just trying to be practical. Practical? Grandpa interrupted sharply. Practical is teaching your children right from wrong. Practical is standing by your word. What you did was selfish, and you know it. I gave that car to Lucy because she earned it. You took it because it was convenient. And now you're seeing what convenience costs. No one spoke. The only sound was the quiet chirping of birds in the distance. Grandpa turned to me and smiled. You're all set, kiddo. Drive safely. I'll see you Sunday. I nodded, fighting back tears. Thanks, Grandpa. He gave a small wave and drove off, leaving my parents standing in stunned silence. For the first time in my life, they didn't have anything to say. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. My parents tried to act like nothing had happened, but I could feel the distance, not just from me, but between them and Grandpa, too. Emma barely looked at me. She sold the old Corolla a month later, probably out of guilt, though she pretended she needed an upgrade. But karma has a way of keeping score. The new car she bought broke down within weeks, and when she called Grandpa for help, he told her, I only help people who respect what they're given. I kept the red convertible for years. It wasn't just a car anymore, it was a reminder. Every time I turned the key, I remembered Grandpa's words, his strength, his quiet justice. That car saw me through college, my first job, even my first heartbreak. It carried me forward every time life tried to pull me back. And whenever people asked me about it, why an old car? Why not trade it in? I'd just smile and say, because it reminds me who I am. Sometimes revenge doesn't need shouting or chaos. Sometimes it's just dignity, the kind that glows quietly under the sun. The kind that comes from knowing justice doesn't need to be cruel to be powerful. Grandpa taught me that true revenge isn't about payback. It's about peace. about reclaiming what was yours all along, not with anger, but with grace. Because in the end, the best kind of revenge is simply living with the freedom they tried to take from you, and never handing over the keys again.